Hey everyone! It is a nice gloomy day outside. I have my fall sweater on. It feels a little bit like fall now. This morning I got a Dutch Bros coffee and it's one of those seasonal drinks. I got the cookie butter, it's called, and it was pretty good. The coffee actually is not as strong as I like it, but the flavor was pretty good at first and now it's like watered down, but I am just so happy this morning, like cheerful. And I decided I just wanted to make a video kind of touching on how school is going so far, and then just show another like planning video with my planner. So yeah, let's get into it. So this is what the first week of my planner looked like. Everything that's in purple pen is what I wrote after I wrote everything out for the week. So mostly like checking things off. And then there was a few times where I had to move things over to the next day that we just didn't get to the day that I planned for it to happen. But we did pretty much get everything done. And then I made a note here that on his spelling test for the final day for spelling, he did miss 2. That's never happened before. Like last year with our spelling work, when by the time he got to the test, he always got them all right. So if you watch my video on the spelling, we switched over to another curriculum where with Memoria Press, and instead of doing like 8 words a week, they do 12. So it is quite a bit more. And then we only use that workbook 4 days out of the week instead of 5. But yeah, this is the first time that he did not get all the words correctly. So we'll see how he does, for the second week of school. But, just something that I'm noting. Something else that I wanted to note about Memoria Press, I'm going to get the book out. So this is something that the reason I switched over to this was because they include the accent marks for the words and the vowels and just the sounds. So this day, for example, he was supposed to put a brev over the short vowels. And something that I noticed, and I want to, if anybody uses this curriculum, please tell me what you think about this. But I noticed that he's supposed to put it over the short vowels, but I don't think these are short vowels. For example, sing has the E sound, sing, and short I is supposed to sound like I, like sing. And so I don't agree that he's supposed to put a brev over it, but am I wrong? I feel like this is like almost like a typo in their curriculum, but I don't know if I'm wrong on that. Also, like with thanks, to me it sounds like a long A, thanks, but they put a brev over it as if it's a short A, that like thanks. And so I just feel like these things are wrong. And so I don't know how I feel about that. I just had him do it like they have it here, but I told him that it's wrong. But I don't know if I'm wrong. So please comment below if you know what you think on that, if this is a mistake on their part, or if I'm wrong and I'm not understanding the rules. But other than that, I really do love everything about this curriculum so far, and I think it's going very well. Another curriculum that we had changed this year was history. We changed it from History Quest to Curiosity Chronicles. And that's another one that I super loved this week for the first week. It was a lot of work, but the main thing for me was a textbook. I felt like it was really interesting and we were reading through it. But I'm very proud of all the work that he did. He did map work, he did a crossword, he did some vocab, comprehension questions, a timeline, and then finally the creative part was the mosaic that he made. So I felt like it just went really well. We were able to complete a lot. But what I really appreciate is just how interesting they made things in the textbook so that he's actually engaged and he's enjoying what he's learning. And then, of course, I knew science was going to go well because I really love this curriculum, elemental science. It's just the usual, except we actually added an extra thing. The other thing that we added was the glossary and review sheet. So I'll show that real quick. This is something that's in the student workbook in the very back. They have the review sheets. They're kind of like quizzes, but they're very short. And this is something that we did not use last year, but I'm trying to implement this year. And I think it went well. It didn't seem like too much work. So he did like this matching of vocab, and then 2 true and false questions, and then 1 sentence stating the most interesting thing he learned that week. And then along with that, we also added the glossary. It's also in the back, and by the end of the year, all this will be filled out. So he only had 1 word for the first week, continent, and he just put the definition there. So that's one extra thing that we added this year, besides the typical, reading the textbook, taking notes on that. Oh, I take that back. We also started a unit project, which is every week there's a demonstration that he does, which is like a hands-on project type of thing, and he'll take notes on that. But this year, they also included some unit projects, which are projects that take a little longer to complete. So it takes, maybe a few weeks or however long the unit is to fully complete that one project. And so this was something that we're adding this year too, which is like another extra project. And yeah, it was pretty fun. It's like a paper mache. We used a balloon and we're gonna make our own like globe type of thing. So a little more hands-on stuff and just a little bit more workbook too. This year I had mentioned in another video that as he's getting older, we're gonna add a little bit more and see how that goes. And so far, it's just been 1 week, but it seemed to be pretty good. Another curriculum that we really loved was Latin. It was really easy to go through, and I think language is just something that my son always enjoys. So the curriculum itself was really good, and then because he likes languages, he enjoyed it. And then grammar has always been real simple and easy to get through. Literature, we were just finishing up Popper's Penguins, and I'll get into this next, but for the next week, but we're gonna start getting into literature guides now. But yeah, for the first week, we're just finishing up that book. And then now I'm gonna go into what he didn't love. One of the things he didn't really love was writing. The writing curriculum that we got this year, Write Shop, it's a lot more creative. It's not as workbookish. It's more like I guide him through a lot of the things and explaining the rules of whatever it is he's learning. So this first week we were writing a letter. I just kind of loosely followed the teacher's guide, and I did some guided writing the first day where I will actually do most of the writing in the beginning. I also help him with his brainstorming. There's an activity page where he'll write some things on there, and then we'll do like a rough draft and then a final draft, and that's where he will write it, the complete thing. This one really dragged though, and I had to keep like putting it off for another day because there was a lot of work with everything else, and writing is just not something that he loves to do. Like just the physical part of writing, he doesn't enjoy, he gets tired. But also, I don't know, it just wasn't, for some reason, like the letter itself, he liked the contents of it, his thoughts and ideas, he's always like makes it funny, and that part was enjoyable, but just the writing part, writing it out, he did not enjoy. I don't know. I'll see how the second week goes. So far, it does seem to be going better, but we'll see how this curriculum ends up being later on. Another thing is, and I don't think this is the fault of the curriculum, because I still think this curriculum is great with math, it's Singapore Dimensions. I think they do such a good job with showing visually how to do the math in your head and to do it in different ways. I also think they provide so much practice, good practice. It's just he does not enjoy math, and he even I feel like in this beginning of the school year, it's like easy stuff, and it's something like he's actually good at. He understands the concepts, but he just does not want to do the work. And so it was not enjoyable this week. It was very, very difficult to get him to do any of the days. And I do admit, I agree that there is a lot of work. There's a lot of the workbook stuff, but I can see how it is needed. I feel like if we don't complete all of it, it's not enough practice. So I do see how it's necessary, but yeah, it's just something that he pretty much hates. So I don't know. I feel like we're gonna already start to get behind with the way they suggest for the amount of lessons. So yeah, I'll just have to update and see how he does with that in the future, because it's only been the first week. And so far he is on track, but we'll see how that ends up going. So that's pretty much the gist of how everything went on the first week. And now I'll just show what the lesson planning is for the second week. Something else that I wanted to note, I had gotten this idea from another YouTube mom that I saw this video. She has boys that she homeschools, and one of the tips that she said in her video I used, and it worked so good, and it was that when he wasn't focused and he kept goofing off a lot, he just would not stop goofing off. And instead of me getting like super frustrated, I just told him, since he had all this energy, to just go run outside. And I just told him to take some laps. And he actually loved it. He went outside and ran his laps, and he was like enjoying it so much. And he'd come back, and you know, I would try to get him to do his work and focus. And if he goofed off again, I just said, okay, go back outside and run. So I felt like that really helps. So if that's something that you maybe have not tried yet, and you have like a really energetic child and they're not focusing, that's something maybe you can do, you know, if you have time for it too, of course. And, you know, just tell them they could finish sooner if they just focus, you know, because obviously he does want to finish too. So that always helps. But yeah, that's something that we had to do this week, and that helped. So as usual, I put the days of the week on the top up to Friday. And then this last column I will use as notes, that if we didn't complete something, or if we're ahead on something, or just any notes that I want to keep in mind for a subject, I will put in here. And then down here I'll put the subjects. And so I started with math on the top this time, and I'm gonna go ahead and open up the textbook and show what that will look like for the week. As you can see, we did already start Monday and Tuesday. Today is Wednesday, the day that I'm filming, and we haven't started school yet. So, but just, you know, in case you see all this, that's why I have check marks here. So for Monday, we started with lesson 6, and that is with both the textbook and the workbook. So the textbook, so this is lesson 6, and this we do together. You see all the visuals. He's learning the hundreds, greater than, less than. You see all these charts, and then a lot of the work on his own, and there's even some addition here. And you can just see that was, you know, quite a few pages. The first few pages are just like one problem, but then here's where you get like multiple problems on these 2 pages here. So that's just the textbook that we do together. But honestly, we do the workbook together too, to help them focus. So lesson 6, we have comparing the numbers, greater than, less than, filling out how many these are, listing greater, least to greatest, greatest to least, less than, greater than. And then here we have some addition, some equals, and all this. And then he even did the challenge this time. So that's what that looked like on that day. Then lesson 7. So we only did the textbook. So this is why I get the sense that we're probably going to start falling behind, because on the teacher's guide, they suggest to complete lesson 7 on the second day this week. So did not do that because he just got so tired, but this is what it looks like here. This is lesson 7. They're incorporating more like addition, subtraction in this lesson. So that's what that looks like. They're trying to help them visualize that. And we stop there. But this is what the workbook looks like. There's going to be some coloring involved. More coloring. And then here they won't get the visual, they'll just get the problems. Some patterns, some more problems here. And then greater than, less than, after doing addition and subtraction. So that's what that looks like there. So we'll be doing that today. And then today we were supposed to do all of lesson 8 and a test for chapter 1. So I'm going to show what lesson 8 looks like here. He's just writing out in words. Oh, okay, it looks like it's just this page here. So that's good. Doesn't seem too bad. It kind of looks like review too. So that's from the textbook, and then the workbook is this, writing out the numbers. Addition, subtraction. So this chapter seems more like review, or not chapter, lesson. A challenge. The workbook seems a lot more longer than the textbook on this lesson. And then the test. Let me bring the test out. So here's the test book, and he'd be doing the first chapter. And this is what this looks like here. So this, he definitely would be doing on his own. But you can just get an idea of how long it is. That's how long it was. So it's like 15 problems. Okay, so in your opinion so far, does that look like way too much for math, or does it look like it's all necessary? Then for tomorrow, I just realized I put Tuesday. For Thursday, we're gonna start on chapter 2. So there's the opener and then there's lesson 1. So let's see what that looks like. This is the opener where it's like mostly discussion. And then this is part of that. And then this is lesson 1. So this is what we'll be doing. Let's see, this is strategies for addition. So there's just different ways. This is now a new way that they're explaining how to visualize it. They're using number blocks and number bonds. And that was pretty short for lesson 1, so that's good. It's just 1 page front and back. And then we'll get into the workbook, the exercise page. Oh, also just 1 page front and back. So that's pretty good, that's nice. And it kind of goes backwards into doing the addition, but in this new way of doing it in your head. So that's good practice there. And then lastly for Friday is lesson 2. So here's lesson 2. Okay, so lesson 1 was addition, and then lesson 2 is subtraction. Same thing, visualizing it using the blocks and then the number bonds. And same thing, it's just front and back 1 page for the textbook. And then for the workbook, let's see how long it is. A little longer, 2 pages front and back. And that's it for this week for math. Grammar is very simple. It's just a lesson a day, and each lesson is pretty short. There's a short explanation of what the concept is that day, and then they just do their workbook part of it. Here, he just had to rewrite the sentence in the correct way with capital and punctuation. Yes or no if the statement is written correctly, and then writing out a sentence. Then the next day, same thing. This time it's the question marks, answering the questions in statements. And then here's lesson 9, exclamation points. Pretty much very similar. And then 10, let's see what, okay. So this week we're only gonna do grammar 4 days instead of 5, because on the 5th day, I want to start introducing the literature guide. So now this is our first time using the literature guide, and I'm gonna show now what we're gonna start out with. So what we're gonna start out with is Memoria Press's literature guides, and we're gonna start with Tales from Beatrix Potter. This is the student guide, and this is the teacher's guide. And there's a few of her stories in this one student guide. So it's gonna start out with The Tale of Peter Rabbit, and this is the first worksheet page where we pronounce and say these words on top. Then there's some vocabulary where they write down the definitions of the bold words. Then there's some comprehension questions that he can fill out here on this whole page. And then a language lesson. They start saying what these words mean: author, illustrator, settings, characters, plot. And then he gets to fill that out. So that's really good to know and learn. And then he gets to write down what the life lesson is. And then a little activity, like drawing activity. I like all of this minus the first page with vocabulary just because we already do vocabulary with our spelling workbook. But I don't know, I'm gonna see with his teacher if it'll be okay to just skip this part for all of the stories and just do the comprehension questions and these pages here and just be good with that. I think that will be just enough. And so it's like that for every book or every story. The next story is The Tale of Benjamin Bunny. And so what I'm thinking to do is maybe just one page per Friday. After we just do the 4 lessons of grammar, I'm thinking Fridays we can work on the literature guide. So maybe one page each Friday and then complete this in a month. One story a month. Okay, here's writing for this week. This week he's going to be just writing a story. Okay, so for the second lesson, they're supposed to focus on spelling. Honestly, I haven't even really done the activities that they've said for spelling. I'm supposed to do like this word bank thing, and it's a lot of work on my part as a parent teacher to do that. And I just feel like with spelling, with his spelling workbook, he's already set with that. Like, I just want to focus more on the writing part of it. And so he's supposed to write a story this week, and I've just focused on that. I've been focusing on how to write a paragraph, showing him, demonstrating to him, guiding him. He's more like just telling me his ideas, and he'll dictate to me what to write until he's gonna do like his final thing. So the next thing we'll do is he'll just do his like rough draft and then the final project at the end. And this project should be a little more fun because he's actually going to like make a rocket, because this week it's about space. The theme is about space. So his story is on visiting Saturn. And I thought this was cool, this graphic organizer using a story web where we put the theme or title in the middle, and then we made the star, and then he tells like some things that he wants the story to be about. Of course, he made it really silly as always. But we did this together, and that was kind of fun. And he did write it out himself, so that was nice to get him to be a little more involved in that. So these are the activities we didn't do with the spelling. He's supposed to write like another story and check the spelling and all that, and I don't know, it's a lot, and I just want to skip it. There's also going to be an activity sheet that we haven't done yet, and that will bring out some spelling, so I guess that will be good for him to just check off the whole spelling idea of this week. But other than that, yeah, I just don't want to do all that extra stuff. But anyway, what I was going to say was, the last project is making a rocket ship, and he's going to use something that is like a cylinder to put his story into. So that was kind of nice. Should be fun. It's not much else to that. I don't know what I think about this curriculum so far. I've mentioned this before, but it's very arts and craftsy, and it's just a lot for the parent and teacher to set up through the week. It's a lot on us preparing beforehand. So just keep that in mind if this is something you want to look into. But that's what we're doing this week. So this is what I have set up this week for writing. Where is it? We did the brainstorming with the star. We did the rough draft story paragraph. He dictated that to me. And then today we're going to do the activity sheet. And then Thursday will be the actual publishing the story, where he will write it out, the final draft, and then making the rocket ship for him to put it into. Okay, Latin is pretty self-explanatory. It's the same thing every week. So if you want to watch my last video, the first week of school, what that looks like, it's pretty much the exact same thing, just new vocab words. So now let's get into the fun stuff. There's science and history. We usually do history first on Mondays, and we don't do science until Tuesday, because we alternate those days. But basically they're both very similar in the sense that we read the textbook on the first day, but except with science, he'll do taking notes on what he's learned in the textbook. And with history, it's more of like a little puzzle or something that he'll do that day. And he'll also do like map work. So that's what he did. He did map work and then that puzzle. And then today, what we're gonna do is we're gonna do some comprehension questions and the timeline that we use the School Nest timeline notebook for that. So that's this book, the timeline notebook, and we're just getting into this. We're on the Middle Ages now, so this is what it looks like so far, and we're gonna add to it this week. And then lastly, he'll do his project. So this week, I actually kind of improvised a little bit on that. We're gonna do a catapult, which I'm gonna do exactly how is in the book. But this one, I'm gonna show how I'm gonna do something a little different. Chapter 2 looks like so far. He's gonna complete the comprehension questions. Here's the timeline that he's gonna copy into that book here. He already did the map work and this crossword puzzle. He even colored this while we were reading. But this is what I'm gonna do differently. Here he's supposed to just match where these people go with the ranking of people at that time period. But what I wanna do is I wanna get this booklet. It's just a blank book that I wanna put the pictures of these different types of people. And then each page, just label it, like whether it's nobility, clergy, knights, and then he can put those pictures of the people where they belong. I just felt like that would be a little more fun. And so yeah, that's what I plan to do for this project. And then the other project, here in the instructor's guide, there's this option, design your own flag, but we're not gonna do that. We're gonna do the build your own bow and arrow. Okay, I thought it was a catapult, but that's not this lesson. There is one coming up though with the catapult, but we're gonna do the bow and arrow with popsicle sticks, you know, all these things here, and they have the instructions here of how to do that. So that's what we are gonna do for Friday. Lastly, for science, this week we're doing earthquakes for lesson 2. And what we did so far yesterday was look at the textbook, and then in the student workbook, he took some notes on that. So there was tectonic plates and earthquakes. And so the next thing we'll do is we're gonna do the demonstration, write those notes down, and then on Friday we'll do the review sheet and the glossary and the adding mountains to the unit project. This is what the unit project looks like so far. Oops. It's just the paper mache over the balloon. So we're just gonna add some more paper mache to make some mountains. And that's all we have to add for this week. And here's my little show and tell for last week. We did the layers of the earth. We started with the core, and then the mantle, and then the crust. And we actually cut these in half, and you can see the line there, so that you can see the layers inside. So let me see if I can open this up. Okay, it's actually kind of hard to open up. Whoever put this back together did it really well, also with this one. But if you just like cut this in half, you'll see the layers inside. And you can kind of see the color, because the color underneath this is orange, and then in the very middle it's red. But yeah, it's really cool just to see the different layers that way. And then on the outside, you know, we try to make it look like earth. But that was really fun, and that was last week's demonstration. All right, so that is what the lesson planning will look like for this week. Feel free to leave any questions and comments below, and let me know how your school is going so far. Hope everybody's starting out strong. Thank you for watching this video, and I'll see you in my next one. Bye.